What's happening, tennis fans? Today, a technique lesson. We're taking a look at the Stan Wawrinka one-handed backhand. In my opinion, the best one-handed backhand that we have ever seen, and it rivals even some of the best two-handers out there. And this is really his ability to produce power, especially up high above the shoulder. His ability to get this big power is largely because of his grip. Now, I'm going to show you, as far as, for most backhands, what we see is an Eastern backhand grip. And what you want to think about is we look at the bevels on the racket. This is about getting your knuckles on bevel 2, bevel 1, and then bevel 2. This is allowing most of your hand to get behind the racket, and it's going to allow just more stability through the stroke. But Stan actually takes it a step further, and he rotates his hand even further behind the racket to where his knuckles are residing predominantly on bevel 1. Still somewhat on bevel 2, but definitely more behind the racket. Not something that I would jump into right away, right? If you're still working on the one-hander, really get a feel for just the Eastern backhand grip before we rotate it all the way back, because it almost ends up being like a Western forehand. All right, but something else with the grip that I think is really important, and what you're gonna notice here is Stan is transitioning from his forehand grip. If you pay attention to this hand, he's transitioning from his forehand grip to his backhand grip. But what I want you to notice is that he's doing it with his non-dominant hand. His non-dominant hand is changing the grip. So let's grab the racket again. Too often I see players to where when they move to their one-hander, they're doing it with their non-dominant hand. With their dominant hand, and we don't want that. As I turn and I get the strings out, if my hand is loose, you can see that I can find the grip, and that is exactly what we see Wawrinka doing here. Change the grip with your non-dominant hand up on the throat. So with that being said, with the hand on the throat, this becomes a lot easier if you're starting with the racket tip up. Now, Stan doesn't do this per se, although we do see his finger up, but a good way to do this is that from your ready position, as you switch into your one-hander, take your index finger and put it on the strings or put it on the frame. Actually get the index finger going up, as you can see here, right? This will help with the orientation of the racket and getting the racket tip up. All right, that's gonna help with that grip change and problem solve actually a lot of things. So why do we want the racket tip up? Well, one, momentum. The more the racket can travel and work kind of through this pendulum, it's going to pick up momentum. It's also going to give you the ability to fight off those really pesky high balls. It's really important that that racket tip starts up. All right, so part of this, as far as what's going on with the racket starting up and then taking back, when we look at the unit turn, the hero here is the non-dominant hand and the arm. And I want you to think about, when you're taking the racket back, think about as if you were elbowing a mugger coming up behind you. If someone was sneaking up behind you, right, and wanted to take your wallet, you'd give an elbow. Well, that's what they teach in self-defense classes. It's the same thing with the one-handed backhand. As I make the grip change, the elbow comes back high. Now you can keep the elbow, you can start the elbow low and then bring the elbow up high. We see them both on the tour, both are fine. But ultimately, we want this elbow in a position here to where it's giving plenty of space between the chest, the abdomen, the body, in order to complete this motion. All right, so now let's talk about what's going on with the racket. Now, as Stan initiates movement forward, here we can see his foot is off the ground. But keep an eye on his foot as he establishes weight forward and the byproduct of the racket. So as weight starts to come forward, the racket is dropping. It's not forced. This is very organic. As he starts to step forward, the racket begins to drop. And when the racket drops, that's where we see the racket enter the slot. All right. So traditionally, I know we were taught flashlight at the ball, right? Butt cap at the racket, but you can see here, this is much more towards a 45-degree angle. And with the racket getting behind the hip here, this is what gives the ability to unleash that big power. And I think something we don't talk enough about is the relationship between the footwork and this happening. As you shift weight forward, the racket organically should drop back behind you and your hip. Now from the slot, the racket is going to lag. And it's from here that the racket works out to contact and gets that big power that we're looking for. Now this piece is important because on the one-hander, the tendency is to swing across and it finishes low. Instead, what you want to think is to swing up. Allow the racket to swing up through contact. You can see that there. By no means is he pronating early. As he works through, in fact, there's no pronation at all. It'd be supination because he's working on the non-dominant side. But as he works out through here, the racket is working up and then over. As you can see here, it reaches that nice finish all the way up at the top. And that is by the byproduct of swinging low to high, but not across, but finishing this way. I think if you get in the habit of swinging up and holding and then allowing the racket to come over, that'll help correct the swing path. Now let's talk about the finish here. Stand's a little bit different. You see Federer, Gasquet, some of these players, to where from here they are anchoring the back arm and you get kind of the classic spreading the wings, the pinch the scapular. Wawrinka is 100% doing that, but he does square up a bit more. So here his arm is bent, his non-dominant arm is bent, but he opens up a bit more than those guys. But he's still controlling that left side by keeping that left arm bent and anchored back. But here we can see more of the straight line through the chest. Now, is there a particular advantage to that? I honestly think it's more about style and him allowing it to work for him. And I think because of the grip being more extreme, that causes him to come around a little bit more. But for all of us as mere mortals, we definitely want to be thinking about keeping this left side controlled. We really want to keep this arm back. And then as the racket comes to finish, then the body can then come around, and that's fine. Think about keeping your head still in order for the arm and the body to pivot around it. So the Stan Wawrinka backhand, a magnificent, magnificent weapon. It's so fun to watch. If you want to apply some of this technique, my main point would be to start with the racket high. I think that is number one. Organically finding the drop by finding the momentum forward. Here you can see the weight is starting to shift, organically causing the racket to drop and swinging up. Focus on getting out to the ball, but swinging up and then across, not just across your body. Hope today's video helped a ton. If it did, hit that like button, leave me a comment, let me know if you have any questions. Always happy to help and always welcome feedback. And in the comment section, you're gonna find a link for PlayYourCourt.com. And you know what we do there? We link you with players in your area. We can help you with lessons. We have the video vault where you can find just a ton of information. But definitely check that out, absolutely free, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.